Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live with BLAYNE J, your weekly connection to people, brands, and businesses. Thank you so much for joining. And I have to tell on myself because I like being on time. I pride myself on being on time for my shows, and I was having the most technical difficulties that are still being worked out. So thank you for your patience. For those of you that tried to log on at 6 o'clock and saw nothing, it was on me. I'm still having difficulties, but we're going to work through it. And as always, thank you for being here, and keep your notifications locked to Realish Radio on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Be sure to download the app at realishradioapp.com for all of the vlogs, podcasts, and content. We're working really hard to bring you a variety of shows, so definitely check out our sites and my Instagram page, which is BLAYNE_J, BLAYNE_J, and that's on Instagram. So today I have Lamonte Leftenant. He is my personal financial coach, and he is coming on here to tell you what to do with your stimulus checks, how to get out of debt, and how his company can help get you on a financial road to freedom, a freedom that you probably didn't even realize that you needed. So Lamonte is about to come on right now and tell us a little bit more about his company, New Venture Innovations. Hi, how are you, Lamonte?
How's it going, Blaine? Happy to be here.
Good. And thank you for dealing with all the behind the scenes chaos that went on. So I have known Lamonte now, I think, for about 3 years. And I was put in touch with him by someone that he and I both know. And I went to the person because I was like, I have a little bit of money and I want to invest this money, and I want life insurance. I want all this stuff. And the financial advisor was like, you don't really have a bunch of money, so I need you to talk to Lamonte, and he is going to help clear up some of this debt, and he's going to help kind of get you back to me when you're ready to come back to me, because you're not ready right now. So Lamonte and I have been working together, like I said, for about 3 years to eliminate what's called bad debt, and he's going to explain exactly what bad debt is now, and to kind of make me a little bit more accountable for the spending that I do. And he is on a mission to get thousands of people financially out of financial debt, and put you on the same road. So thank you so much for being here, Lamonte.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. As I like to put it, like I've recently come into connection with my purpose, and I truly believe that I'm here to rid the world of financial burden. And the reason for that is when you have financial burden, you're really tied down to what you think you need to be doing, and a lot of times it's not what makes you happy. It's not what brings joy into your life. And there's a lot, and with all the sadness and pain and hurt that's going on, especially now with COVID, people don't even aren't even allowed to think and dream around what their wants and their desires were when they were kids. They're just like, okay, well, how do I get from point A to point B? How do I put food on the table? How do I keep a roof over my house, over my kids, and etc. And there's so much more to life than that. I truly believe that the world will be a better place if more people were able to tap into their purpose and share their gifts with the world. But a lot of times, if you can't put food on the table, if you can't put clothes on your back, you can't even think to what's possible in your life. And so that's really what I'm here to do, and try to help as many people get there as possible.
And that's something that you do with me, and you are a financial coach. And I want people to understand, when you think of financial coach, it's something that doesn't always come up. We hear life coach, we hear wellness coach, but in terms of a financial coach, Lamonte and I work really hard to set financial goals, but then we also talk about, what are these goals going to do for me? What kind of life is this going to enable me to live? What am I going to feel if I am financially free? So we spend a lot of time talking about all the money I spend on food. And so that's my downfall, is if I have $50, 48 of it is going to food. And so it's really, you help people to be more conscious of their spending, and to kind of weigh the options of, okay, if you're going to buy this, what does it take away from that? So can you talk a little bit about what you do with the financial coaching, and what you've been doing to help not just me, but other people like me?
Yeah, of course. And it starts by just putting a little bit context around it. So I've worked in the financial services industry for over 18 years, right? From everything from actually managing a group of financial service associates while I was at Prudential, to doing equity research at UBS and Lehman Brothers, all the way to managing the digital experience of over 2.2 million clients while I was at AXA. And the thing that I noticed more often than not is that we were definitely ill prepared in helping create better outcomes, especially for women and people of color, right? And it's no surprise that I put on a special virtual background here, Discover Your Prison, which is one of the tenements within my coaching structure, is really around the emotional and behavioral tendencies that people might have that go against their actual goals, right? And until you actually unearth the thinking and the behaviors that you might be predisposed to that actually go against whatever goal you may have, you can have the best financial plan in the world, right? And you may not actually go ahead and create the financial goals and outcomes that you're looking to do. Why? Because your brain is hardwired with bad habits, bad beliefs, and other things that will ultimately continuously have you go off track. And so what I would see is that, when those plans and those financial algorithms were being developed around, okay, well, you should do X, you should do Y, and a lot of times even financial advisors that may have similar predispositions were not given training on, well, how do we retrain your brain, right? Like if you come from a family or a situation of scarcity, the first time you get money, your brain, even as a child, was programmed to associate those materialistic things that cost money with wealth, with achievement, with success. And so without any other pre-course, what ends up happening is, okay, well, you work hard, you start making money, and guess what? The first thing you want to do is you want to now believe
You
that
want to
you've
spend
arrived.
it.
Yeah, you want to believe that you're arrived. So you go out and you get a nice car, you get a nice apartment, you get nice things that don't necessarily equate to some of the goals that you might have, whether it be buying a house, whether it be creating generational wealth. A lot of people talk about that, but you have to do non-conventional things to bridge that gap, right? And so that's one of the things that I try to work with all of my clients to establish for themselves is, what do you really want? And I'm glad that you brought that on, is because even from our youth, we're not given the liberty to truly define for ourselves what we want in life. Like a lot of times our goals are ascribed on us by our parents, our teachers, and it kind of just goes on and on like that through life, where our social circles, our friends, family, etc., they have a large influence on the things that we say we want. And then what ends up happening is we say we want these things, and yet we're not taking the actions required to actually make them happen. So I talk about this as one of the phases within a framework that I created for freedom. It's called the 3D framework for freedom. The first one is really talking about discovering your prison, right? And so that's really unearthing all of those things that might have you act in a way that might not be in accordance to a goal that you've actually subscribed for yourself. But the second piece is defining your path fueled by purpose, right? And the reason why that's so important is, many of us say we want to make a lot of money, or we want to do other things, but the key part around that is, we're not always that honest with, number one, is it something that we really want? Like, are we willing to do the work even when we don't feel like it, because we're so passionate about making that happen, right? And that's really key in making like sustainable long-term results, is identifying something that you actually care about, and you'll put the work in even when you don't want to, right? Because that's oftentimes the thing that will throw somebody off off their track, especially when you think about finances, right? Because there's this idea of delaying the immediate gratification, what you want now, for some future self, that you might not have even have identified with, right? So I think about myself, where I grew up, and thinking about the average age or life expectancy of a Black male, right? I'm already over I'm already over 40, and a lot of the people who I went to high school with are no longer here, right? And so if I had a disposition of, well, I mean, I might not even live to see 50, or might not even live to see 55. Imagine how difficult that is to then say, okay, I'm not going to spend money on this nice apartment or this nice car right now when I can enjoy it now for some, foreseen future that I may or may not get. That's another mental block that sometimes people have to really get through, and it's unconscious, right? You might not even know that you have those subconscious thoughts around, well, what's the likelihood that I actually make it to 65? I hear that all the time. Like, okay, you want to be able to save for retirement. All the people I know that save for retirement are struggling. They're still working. They're doing this. They're doing that. So it almost seems like, there's a desire to put effort towards something that may or may not actually really come to pass. And so that's one of the other reasons why, even when we talk,
it sounds like
go ahead. Mm-hmm. I was going to just say before you go.
What you're saying and when we talk, it's about choices. We spend a lot of time talking about choices, right? And that's what it sounds like you're saying. So you could have the choice to make money now and spend it all on a lot of material items, or you could kind of make the choice to be like, all right, I don't need this 5-bedroom mansion right now. Maybe I need this 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm going to take the rest of my money and I'm going to do this and that, so that when it comes time for me to retire, I will have built my wealth up, and now I'm able to kind of do some things with it. And I think you and I do spend a lot of time talking about, like, not just the here and now, but what is the life that you want 5 years from now? What does that look like for you financially? What does it feel like? What will that bring to you? And a lot of times when I am spending money, I always have you in mind, because I have to answer to you, and I'm like, Lamont is going to see these transactions. So even when I think I'm being sneaky, I'm like, I download my transactions and I send it to him, so he's going to see this. But it's like, I know I'm making poor choices sometimes. And that's why my conscious kicks in, because we've talked about 5-year goals and we've talked about long-term goals. And here I am buying all the empanadas and all the, red wine and all the stuff that you always see on my bills. But this didn't just come out of nowhere. This is something that you have wanted to do for a long time, because you have a personal understanding and connection to what it means to want to save money and to save for your goals and kind of get to that point. So can you tell me a little bit about where this came from, other than, I know you have all kind of degrees and stuff behind your name, but there's like a personal connection to this as well.
Yeah. So like many people, right? My story includes starts out with somewhat of a tragic beginning, right? I was 16 years old, and my house burned down, and my parents did not have any insurance, right? And we came from a fairly middle class, everything was okay until that moment situation where you would think, everything's fine. My father's a police officer. My mom was a recreational therapist. Most of all my brothers and sisters before me had went to college. Everything was good. And then this came around, and then next thing you know, boom, like there was no money. And the reality from a child's perspective was, I thought we were doing good. Like around the neighborhood, we were looked at as, we have everything going on. And what comes to find out is, like, that's this subdued culture of not talking about money, kind of putting everything under wraps. It was a situation where, they were robbing from Paul to pay Peter, right? There was the choice around what's going to stay on, this, that, and the other, and the insurance went out the window. And the issue for me was it was a very jarring experience of, I never knew when the rug would be pulled out from under me ever again. And I associated that with money, right? And it was funny, and it's a good thing. I joke about this all the time, because my father has left me with so many great gems of sayings, right? And one of the key things that I always stuck in my mind was the golden rule, right? And it's probably not what you're going to think it is, but it's, he with the gold makes the rules, right? And so I always had that stuck in my mind. And so when we lost everything, it went from a situation where I just was compelled to just make money. That literally became my number one like be all end all. And like many people talk about it, but legitimately, when I went to school, I went to Duke, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor to help people. I looked up the who makes the most money, so I was like, okay, I need to be an anesthesiologist. They make the most money, and then I shadowed a doctor and found out that the money wasn't as easy as I thought. So then quickly transitioned to business and computer science, right? All only because of money, right? And the issue that brought me into is that when I got into corporate America, I was still driven by money. And it got to a point when I was maybe a little bit midpoint in my career where I was up for promotion, and yet I knew that my nephew had recently been diagnosed with cancer, and I subconsciously, I think, just kind of kept my head down and was still working. And it wasn't until, the funeral came that I realized in hindsight how absent and how disconnected I had been. And it was, you have these points in your life where you just know that somebody, the God, universe, whatever you want to like, is talking to you as this is a moment. And I had one of those moments where I never in my life wanted to have money drive my decisions, especially as it related to being and spending time with my family and my friends. And so at that point, I decided that I was not going to be a slave to my job or money ever again. I was going to get myself together. And I know that I needed to change my mindset first, because I was so locked into what I thought I needed in this life that I thought I needed to maintain. Because at that point in time, I had went to Duke, I went to Harvard, and I had all these expectations on myself around what my life should look like. And yet my life, but I knew it didn't mean that I couldn't be available for friends and families when they needed me. And that was when I said, okay, I got to get out of debt. I got to start building my assets. And within the course of 3 years, I was able to release over $160,000 of debt. So that's student loans, one of my mortgages. I also was able to acquire two properties, one which I live in, and others that are just being rented out. And I started 2 businesses, 2 franchises to create residual income while I was working. Like, this is like while I was, in my full-time job, probably working 60 to 75 hours a week. Because the one thing that I realized is that whenever you have a job, in most cases, that's just to pay the bills, right? Mm-hmm. And so whatever you ultimately then do above and beyond that, that creates the life that you want to live. That creates the life that you ultimately can lead. And if there's any desire to kind of enable a path or leave a legacy that has more possibilities than yourself, 9 times out of 10, most jobs don't really just provide that. In my experience, there always needs to be something else, whether it be, real estate, whether it be investments, whether it be side businesses, whatever. And luckily I had a good teacher in that, when my father was, he was a police officer and a plumber and other things. So I saw at least that model, and I'm very grateful for that.
So there's 2 things. One thing that you said reminds me of a quote that I saw, and I don't know if I told this to you the last time we spoke, but it said, I don't have a dream job, I have a dream life. And that really stuck to me, because a lot of people ask, like, what is your dream job? And some of us can answer it and some of us can't. But when you think about it, your job is really there I hope you like what you do, but it really is there to fund your life and for you to do the things that you want to do in life. So that stuck out to me with what you just said. That's number one. And then the second thing is, when we talk about debt, there's so many different kinds of debt. You just mentioned school loans, there's credit card debt, there's all kind of debt. Can you kind of go into what you do in terms of freeing people from financial debt? Because I know for me, it was credit cards, and it wasn't even credit cards that I actively use. I actually don't actively use any credit cards. This is all debt that I accumulated from 2 years ago or something that I'm still paying off. Lamont has got me to the point where I don't use credit cards. I don't take out cash, because if I have to take out cash, I have to explain to him what I did with the cash. And half the time I don't know what I did with it. And so you have really put me on a system where I just use my bank card, because that means the money is coming out. And if the money is not there, then I obviously can't get it, because that's the card that I'm using. So can you go into exactly, like, when we say bad debt, what exactly is bad debt that we need to free ourselves from to kind of reach this point of not having just a dream job, but a dream life that we're trying to build?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so debt is bad debt is any debt that you take on that is not adding to your personal balance sheet, right? And which means that if it wasn't debt that was used to acquire some form of asset that you then can leverage or use, then there's no real point in having it, in my opinion. And it's not to say that you shouldn't have debt, because I personally believe that debt is our friend when used wisely, right? So I'm a strong advocate of using other people's money to make money, right? So whether that be buying assets, whether that being borrowing to invest, levered accounts, those types of things, other people's money, other people's property, other people's power, right, that you can leverage to your end, is obviously there's one major key to scaling anything that you're doing, right? Because we're only can do as much as we can by ourselves. So the key to getting rid of the bad debt, however, is really budgeting, right? And I know that's probably like, people cringe when they hear it. But I have a unique definition for what I believe a budget to be. Is a budget is just a coordination of resources for a goal, right? And so when you look at it that way, you can say, well, what are my goals to this month, this year, this quarter, right? And if it's to get rid of your debt, you can say, okay, well, how much debt do I have currently? What do I need to get rid of it? And then what can I do given all the money that I make, right? And given all the money that I spend, where can I make different choices to get rid of that debt as soon as possible? And usually the reason why most people don't do anything with the debt sooner is because we live in a debt-fueled society. And we also live in a society where the true cost of debt is masked for all intents and purposes, right? We might see somewhere that a credit card is 26% or 29%, but we don't actually visualize and see exactly how much that means to us on a day-to-day or a month-to-month basis. Many of us subconsciously avoid looking at that interest charged line that happens on the don't tell yourself, BLAYNE, that interest charged line that shows up on your credit card that says, okay, you're carrying $1,000 balance on your Discover card. However, you were charged $100 of the $156 minimum charge was financing fees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize that, okay, well, you just paid, 2/3 of that payment was just to interest. So you didn't really do anything. So over the course of that debt, which might be, a couple of years, you may have purchased, let's say, at $1,000 worth of stuff and spent $2,300 on paying that card off over 3 years, which means over 100% of that was interest fees that could have been applied towards investing, taking a vacation, doing all the other things. So until you actually can identify the true cost, and you marry that with something that you don't want, right? Oh shoot, I just spent $500 on interest last month across my 3 credit cards, which is something that I would typically work through with a client to let them see for themselves, like, okay, you're spending $500 a month on interest expenses. Is there nothing else that you'd rather put that $500 a month for? And when said that way, all of a sudden people start to get real creative of like, well, do I need Netflix and Hulu and cable? Mm-hmm. Do I need to have the Wi-Fi plan on that iPad? Do I like all these other things start to come into place when they see what the true cost of that debt is doing? Because what I like to say is debt sometimes robs us from our future, and we don't really know that.
We don't, unless it's brought to our face, because a lot of times I feel like I justify stuff that really doesn't need to be justified, you know? So when we go over finances, it's about like saving with a goal in mind. And I will have this goal, and that's something that Lamont does, is he helps you, not just a goal for now, but you really help for like a 5-year goal, a goal for next year, a goal for the present. And it makes you more conscious, because you're like, I am now working towards getting money to buy something, whether it's anything from a pocketbook to property to anything. And you really work to make me and other people feel this emotion of like, what is this going to do for you? And a lot of times it's like, I'm like justifying, I'm like, well, I really need to buy this. I really have to go out with my friends. If I don't go out with my friends this month and spend $100 on, brunch, like, it's not going to make, it's going to be a problem. And you're very good at being like, okay, so that's what we're going to do. So understand, if that's what we're going to do, that means that these 5 other things are not going to happen. And it makes it real, because then I'm like, well, I really want these 5 other things to happen. I guess brunch will have to wait. And your group, Freedom Accelerator, which is under your New Venture Innovations umbrella, it's under the umbrella of your company, New Venture Innovations. That program is specifically for people like me, everyday people who maybe want to get rid of this bad debt that we have, try to be a little bit more conscious of our spending, and really work towards saving and spending with a purpose and a goal in mind. So I'd like you to talk about Freedom Accelerator for anyone that's interested in that particular program. There are several programs that you have under New Venture Innovations, but Freedom Accelerator is one that's a little bit geared towards like everyday people.
Yep, exactly. And it's basically my group coaching platform. And it's really geared around the idea that people stay more motivated and are excited when they are around other people who are working towards similar goals, right? So think about it as just being on part of a large team of people that can be in support of your financial goals. So imagine this, right? So I remember for a large part of my life, some of the things that I would go off and start to do until I went to business school, until I went to undergrad, I would talk about things like, okay, as an example, investing, right? And it would be maybe a card party, right? I'm telling myself. So we're talking about, we're playing spades, and people are talking.
I was going to say spades. That's, yeah, okay.
Right.
Good.
And then something would come on, and they would be talking about like a stock or something else in the news, and I would almost expose myself just to kind of see what was, who was in the room around, like, oh, have you thought about investing in that? And it would be like, a slow hush, almost like a level of shame was projected at me, like, don't kill the mood. We're trying to have fun, right? And you're over here trying to talk about money. And that would oftentimes, I find myself in these situations where I just be like, okay, well, maybe, like, I would always try to bring it up, but then for no fault of anyone else, it's just like, if you don't know about it, oftentimes you don't want to hear about it. And that used to be my mentality as well, right? Until I was there. And that's just something that I've had to change over time, being exposed to more, is like having an inquisitive mind around things that could better both myself, my community, my friends, my family. That wasn't always a welcome thing. And there are oftentimes people will find themselves within their group of immediate friends and family and peers, where as soon as they're starting to try to develop themselves, it's not that it's done maliciously, but it's like almost, well, hey, why are you changing? Well, we're all good with.
They don't see your vision. They don't really see your vision.
We're all good staying like as it is, and you're trying to break free, like, it's almost like, whack-a-mole, like, get back into place. And so oftentimes you have to separate yourselves from people that aren't on the same path. Right. And so I look at it like this, and I tell my clients all the time, like, right, when you take other people's advice, you take their lifestyle. Right. And so if you're sitting around talking to people and listening to people who don't have no money, don't have no credit, don't have any investments, can't spell Roth IRA or other types of things, right? And you're trying to make decisions like, oh, well, I can't go to brunch with y'all next week because I want to do this. You think they're going to be supportive? Like, no, they're like, no, we need you
They're
to
like,
chip
let's go
in.
to brunch.
We want you
Let's
to chip
go.
in because, you know, with you're the extra head that makes it only $10 per person, right? So like, and it's not that it's wrong or anything, but you know, that's what you have to be mindful of, just kind of managing your atmosphere, and always putting yourself with people who are doing things, right? Because even if you're not ready to, let's say, start budgeting, or you're not ready to start reading or investing, when you see other people that are like you and you relate to, when you see like another parent in the room, or you see another young person, or even people that are younger than you that are taking strides, that then have you reflect and say, okay, well, now I know that they're working at Burger King right now, and they're doing this, this, and this, and I'm sitting here making $65,000, $75,000, $85,000, and I said I can't come up with something, but they're making it happen. Like, it's an environment where it's like a I can environment almost all the time. Like, there's no excuses, because everybody that's there is really there for a purpose. And it's not actually for everybody, right? Because I think I saw a couple of people say accountability, right? A lot of people don't want to be held accountable. A lot of people don't want to see the ish that they bring to the table when they're and the excuses that they bring to the table. And I always say, you know, we don't get the life that we deserve. We get the life that we accept.
Mm.
And so they're usually, you know, when you think about transformation and turning points in people's lives, they normally happen around times of either despair, hurt, pain, something where the person finally just couldn't take it anymore, right? And the one thing that I offer is, you know, being that I had to personally go through the hurt and pain and stuff, and the different positive transition points in my life, is I want to offer a different path. Right, like, because the one thing that I've learned, and I benefit from being one of 9, right, is that I never really had to always fall and fail for myself, right? I did benefit from being able to see my brothers and sisters do some things, do some things, and not have to fall on my face first. And I actually believe that if there are a path, if there's people out here that are doing it, why not share more broadly, right? Because I actually thought of the Freedom Accelerator. I developed that name, bought the URL and everything, so that I can launch these programs at the height of the pandemic. It was in March of 2020. I was in Miami at a business acceleration meeting, and just thinking to myself, like, okay, so I've attained financial freedom for myself. This world pandemic is happening. People are losing their jobs. Stores are closing, and a lot of my friends and family are being impacted. What am I doing? Like, I'm not doing enough, right? Like, I'm actually not doing enough. It's not good enough for me to be okay. When I have the information that could help people change their lives. So that's why I wanted to join on this show. And it's all about, you know, changing one person. If one person could get a message out, and they make a choice today to take steps to improve their well-being and the well-being of the family, then I'm fulfilling my purpose.
So then they need to talk to you. They need to contact New Venture Innovations. They need to follow Freedom Accelerators on Freedom Accelerator on Instagram.
Right.
And you also have, in addition to all of these avenues, you also have an audiobook that is coming out sometime this year for people who, so you can check him out on Instagram, you can go to his website, you can get your financial coaching, and now you can listen to him in your house, in your car, on the audiobook. So please let us know what that is about, Lamont.
Yeah. So the book is actually entitled 3 Years to Freedom. And it's something that, you know, I'm somewhat of a private person, and I'm slowly trying to break out of my shell. So thank you for that. And it's really about a young Black man's path from mental imprisonment to financial abundance. And the reason why I say that is so important is a lot of times people don't realize that the change starts in our heads. Like, any change that you want to have in life really needs to start in your head, because it's your own personal perception of you that's allowing your life to be how it is. And a lot of times, you know, I say that, and people sometimes I get a mixed bag, right? Because it throws a little bit of responsibility on the individual to say, look, We all have had things and circumstances happen to us, but in every sense, in every time of that, we are wholly responsible for how we react. Right. It'll be the same situation to say, well, you look at somebody, that has been in prison, or someone who has been, had a terrible upbringing. And I love to use Oprah as the example for those who actually know her real story, right? Having been the victim of molestation, having been actually having a teenage mother herself, right? And then going on to live the life that she's living right now. That has 150% to do with her decision to react and act in accordance to what she believed true to be her future. Right? Yeah. Go ahead.
So the audiobook, I just want to understand. So the audiobook it's like part self-help, and then it's like part helping yourself because you want to obtain this financial freedom. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it's my personal journey from where I was mentally messed up with beliefs that weren't serving me to kind of unlocking and transforming my own mindset to create financial abundance, and then taking the steps to actually become financially free. Yeah.
And I just want to say, and you didn't ask me to endorse you or anything like that, but I'm going to endorse you because we work together. So something that I'll say is, I've made no secret about this. I was laid off last March, and I was unemployed for 10 months. And that was last year. And I was fortunate enough to have a severance package, a very generous severance package that included benefits and health and all kind of stuff. And, but then that was going to run out. So I really needed to budget, and I really needed to get in the frame of mind of this check is going to stop at some point. I was used to working. I was used to having money coming in, and then the check stopped at some point. And I really fell into like this kind of despair, probably even before then, but I fell into this kind of despair of like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And Lamonte and I really worked on a plan that had a lot to do with money, but it had a lot to do with like, so what is the type of job that you want? What do you want that to feel like? What does it look like? What is this going to bring to you? What kind of position do you want? What title do you want? What kind of money do you want to make? All this stuff that we mapped out. And I put down like a mantra that I was going to repeat every day that worked around this financial goal and this job goal and this life goal. And what wound up happening is I wound up getting a better job than I even planned, than Lamonte and I even thought. I wound up getting a better salary than I had planned. I wound up being in this position that I didn't think I was going to be in. And a lot of it was really just like writing it down. Number two, believing it, because I was just kind of like, whatever. And the third was really thinking about what is this going to bring to me financially, and what is this going to bring to me emotionally and mentally? Because when you're in a good emotional and mental space, you'll want to work harder to get the finances and the things that you want. And so although you didn't ask me for a testimony, I'm going to give that testimony for myself, because when I go back and I look at that paper and I look at what I wrote down, and you and I go over it sometimes, and I was able to exceed my own expectations and goals for myself, which I didn't realize at the time until we like really went over it. So I just want to kind of say that to attest for like what you do as a financial coach, and just the power of as a person, just really like working towards the goals that you want. And they could be financial, but it shouldn't all be about, I just want the finances so I can buy, cars and cribs and all kind of stuff. Like I really want to picture myself 5 years from now. And what does that look like? I don't want to be paying a bunch of credit card bills. I don't want to be just spending money that I can't account for, because that's going to enable me now to have a barbecue every summer, or allow me to go on vacations all the time, or, do whatever I want to do for my family. So I just want to kind of say that, because it sounds like that's what your audiobook is about. And I was a good guinea pig for that, because it has really worked, and it's been really helpful if you stick to it. And I think with your Freedom Accelerator program, that is something that you do, is you have people set their goals and really stick to it. And then you have people that help them to be accountable for it, because they're like-minded, and they're all on the same path of trying to elevate themselves financially and just personally get to a better space. So if anyone is, and I'm sorry, I have to lean in because I was having Oh, explain good debt again. Okay, someone's asking to please explain good debt. I have to lean in because my computer's all messed up today. But anyway, please explain what good debt is again.
Yeah, sure. So good debt is debt that's used to acquire an asset that can generate either income or cash flow, or appreciate over time, right? So you could think of, like, for example, mortgages, and now I have a unique perspective on mortgages, right? So a house is typically only an asset if it puts money in your pocket, right? So for me, that falls into the multi-family kind of range. Or if for some way you're able to rent out rooms in your house in a way that the income exceeds the cost that you actually have to pay for it. So if you use debt to buy an asset that generates income or cash flow, then it's good debt. Same thing can be done if you have like a brokerage account where you have like where you buy assets or investments on margin, right? And so therefore you're using the broker's money to acquire those assets.
So it's good to have a mixture of like bad debt, a little bit of bad debt, and then like some good debt as well.
I don't like bad debt at all.
Okay, no bad debt.
So bad debt is just like you're paying for a thing or an asset or something that loses value. So having credit card debt that you pay interest fees on is bad. I do, however, recommend using your credit cards for that month. So you have 28 days of free credit, right? So use it and then have your money actually work for you hard somewhere else, and then take that down and pay your bills.
So let people know again. I'm sorry, you didn't let people know. You have this stimulus challenge that's going on. It's for people that some of us are getting stimulus checks, right? Some of us are on the third rounds of stimulus checks. So for those people that have their stimulus checks, we just talked about how you don't want to take that and go hang with your friends and go to brunch and go buy a bunch of tangible items that you then can't really account for. Tell us a little bit about this challenge that you have and what you are trying to to do with people's money, but stimmy. What are you trying to do with the stimmy checks? Let us know what we need to do with these stimmy checks.
Yeah, so it came out. So I one of the tracks in the Freedom Accelerator is labeled Grow, and it's all about making your money work harder for you. And one of our study groups, someone had mentioned that they may be getting a stimulus check. And so then I got the fun idea to post online and say, okay, well, what is everyone doing with their stimmy checks? And a lot of people said, hey, they wanted to invest, but they didn't know what to do, right? They didn't know, like, they want to invest, but they don't know. And they were bringing up names like AMC and GameStop. And I was like, no, wait, hold on. Don't join the craze if you don't know what you're doing, right? So then I just came with this idea, like, why not come up with a stimulus challenge for anybody who wanted to learn a little bit more on how they can invest what could be considered not all that much money, right? So $1,400. You can either have a stimulus check or not, right? But $1,400 in most cases is a reasonable amount, right? So think about how much most people go out and get the new phones. Like the new phones, definitely $1,400, if not more, depending on when and how, what kind of features you get on it, especially after you get the case and all the rest of the accessories. You definitely drop in $1,400 or better. So the idea was, what you can do if you want to register for the challenge, it's still not too late. You don't have to actually get your used stimulus money. You can just put in $1,400. But what you could do is you can text GROW 10X to 26786. Once again, that's just texting GROW 10X to 26786. And then once you're there, you'll be asked to fill out like what type of investing you're interested in, whether it's stocks, whether it's Forex, digital currencies, those types of things. And I hold a study group that I would invite you to, where we can actually go over some ways in which you can invest your money. Now, the other thing that I talked about, which some people don't always know, is I advise people to actually open up a Roth IRA. I use E-Trade, but any self-directed broker you can use, is so that you don't get hit with any of the taxes, right? So because with this stimulus challenge, the whole goal is to turn that $1,400 into $14,000. And in order to do so, we're going to have to do some active trading. But for those people who are registered into the group, I actually will tell you / show you, share with you what I'm doing, so you don't have to do your own thing. However, if you're an advanced trader and you want to bring ideas to the table and help the group, it's all around helping people have their money work harder for them, right? Because when we are empowered, when we have our money, people's lives are better, right? We can change the world. So that's what it's all about.
So it's not like one of those susu box things that was going around
No,
like
no,
last
no,
year, and it was
no.
like, give your money to the susu and water the flower and do all
There's
this
no
stuff and
flowers. There's no.
invite 25 other
So,
people. And
right.
yeah,
No,
okay,
no,
it's not like that.
no.
Okay, got it, got it.
This is me sharing my knowledge with the community to help them get to a place where they don't have to worry about money. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, even if you're learning, definitely just go ahead and text Grow 10X to 26786. And we're actually holding there's a session tomorrow at 6, so you'll be invited to that if you act now.
That is awesomeness. And I'm going to have all of this information in a post within the next day or two. But for those people that can't wait for the post to go up and they want to talk to you like tonight, please let us know where we can find you on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you want us to find you. I don't want to tell your information, but I would like you to please share.
Definitely the best place is going on IG, Freedom Accelerator. So at Freedom Accelerator, or you can find me on IG as well, Lamonte Leftenant, just as it is right there. Looking forward to help.
And again, the name of your audiobook that's coming out, in case anybody wants to download it, I'm sure you have more information on your page.
Yep, 3 years to freedom.
3 years to freedom, and people can check your page for the release date of that, right?
Yep. New Venture Innovations.
New Venture Innovations.
Yep.
And for those of you that are on another level and you have already maybe eliminated the bad debt and you're ready to move to the next level of whether it's trading or buying a business or doing something, Lamonte also has several other programs under the New Venture Innovations umbrella. I'm sorry, I have to lean into this. Isn't it awesome? Yes. Isn't it awesome that my former colleague Lamonte and my friend okay, I'm sorry, buddy. Thank you so much, Dawn. So we're actually at the point of the show where I normally let people, I ask my guests to give their thank yous and their shout outs. So I'm going to save that comment for the thank yous and shout outs. I think you did see it. So if there's anybody that you want to thank, now is the time, Lamonte.
Oh, I mean, well, first of all, I want to thank you, Juan, for inviting me on here and just being such a great, just a great student, friend. And connecting, right? And for any of other people that have that are watching this, if anything that I've said resonates, I would just say share, right? Because there's a lot of gems that I've shared, and also there are a lot of people that just need to know that other people are trying to improve their financial well-being. Right, because a lot of times what I found, even with my clients and even in our community in general, is there's a lot of shame that comes along with shame and judgment that comes along with wherever you are as it relates to your finances. And the reality is that people, like, schools don't teach you about personal finance. And, in fact, in such a capitalist society, there isn't a lot of incentive to keep people who don't have a lot to give them more, right? And so don't ever feel judged but always strive for more, and through knowledge and through sharing and through communication, we all can have a brighter financial future together. So
that is what's up. And I want to also throw it back to you and thank you so much, Lamonte, on a personal level and a professional level, of course, for being on the show and for all that you do behind the scenes for me, trying to get my whole life together, which is fine, but there's the whole aspect of your life could be together, but then there's the whole financial aspect and the goal aspect, and you do a really great job of making me rethink when I go through my bills and I'm like, I got Thai food like 5 times this month. Oh my God, Lamonte is going to say something. It really helps to make me think about maybe I don't need, that at this point, because maybe there are other bigger goals ahead. So thank you for that. And of course, big shout out to all of the people, brands, and businesses that continue to support the show, especially Dawn Kelly of the Nourish Spot, who left a comment. So Dawn is actually a common denominator. She used to work at Prudential, and Lamonte used to work at Prudential as well. So they knew each other. And then Dawn and I met later, and I told her that, I know Lamont a couple years ago. So she is a connector between the two of us. So big shout out to Dawn Kelly of the Nourish Spot, who's also a former guest on the show. Big shout out to the Realish Radio family who is on here supporting. Be sure to tune in. We have great shows. We have Transparency Place. We have Sisters Talking Ish. We have Let's Talk About It, Cigars with Friends. So many shows, so much content for you to see. So definitely download the app at Realish Radio app. Check the Instagram page at Realish Radio, the Facebook, the YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. Lamont, you just hang on. We're going to get off, but you just hang on because we have a little bit of back talk afterwards. Thank you all for joining, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Hi, guys. I'm Kalia.
I'm Salita.
And we want to welcome you to our new podcast called Sisters Talking Ish on the Realish Radio Network.
So download the app at realishradiooapp.com. And you can also watch us on Facebook and YouTube and listen to the audio on all streaming platforms. Hope you guys check us out soon.